Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Guidrelli. I am joined by Harman, and we're joined by some listeners early on in the show in the YouTube live chat. People wondering what we're going to talk about today. Harm, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but people are already like, oh, what are they going to say about JT and PD? And I put it in the chat, so I'm going to get it right out of the way quickly. My take on the matter is that, A, we don't know for sure what's going on. Yes, we know the players had problems in the past, whatever. My take is if it's affecting your on-ice play, get over yourselves. And this isn't directed at any specific player. Get over yourselves. Honestly, you're paid millions of dollars. Just get over it. Get over yourselves. Figure out how you're going to make it work. I don't want to spend any more time talking about it. It's just, it's so silly to me.
Yeah, it's anytime there's a topic or debate around locker room dynamics, it's such a gray area because let's be honest, it's really the players and the coaches inside that room that have the most insight. For others, yeah, like we can go out, we can try talking to sources, we can try talking to players or people close to the players, but it's just not the same. Everything's going to be secondhand, and to me, I don't speculate on the nature of their relationship. I'll say this because I've reported this at the start of last season. I wrote an article on JT Miller, basically breaking down the double-edged sword, the pros and cons of his fiery, passionate, emotional leadership style. And in that story, I did report that, yeah, in seasons past, there were some teammates, and not talking about Pettersson specifically, but there were some teammates in the past that maybe had some issues with how far JT pushed them. But here's the thing: it's not as simple as, oh, JT is a bad guy or that he's toxic or anything. Because the fact of the matter is, he's just an old school personality. He's very in your face. He's a straight shooter. And I remember talking to Bruce Boudreau about this. He was also quoted in the article, and he didn't have any problem with how JT was pushing his teammates. Neither did Travis Green, to be totally honest. So it's a complicated matter. It's nuanced. I don't want to speculate on the dynamic between Pettersson and Miller, to be totally honest. I will say, though, at some point, they're going to need to play on the same power play unit. I have no idea if the dynamic between them had any impact on that.
Oh, come on. No, it didn't. It can't. It can't.
Okay. I don't think so either. But
okay.
I think it's just as simple as Tocchet wanted to get the power play going.
Yeah.
That's how I view it.
And he did it in the craziest way possible. And we're going to talk about the power play. But I want to wrap up this Miller PD
from a pure hockey thing. Like, forget the Miller PD thing. They need to play on the same power play unit. Like, what are we doing? They're definitely two of your top 5 power play options for the first unit.
Okay, some comments early on here. Paul Papadoulis says, this is why Canucks Convo is on top. We're talking about things that matter and choking at Family Feud. Family Feud coming up later in the show today, folks. Jackson Brar said, if it's actually an issue, something has to be done ASAP. Sure, and I'll leave that to the team. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I wonder if this is an issue. That's not what we're going to do. And then LC250, regular listener of the show, said, you guys said you're not talking about it. Now you're talking about it. And then Miss L in the chat said, that's 5 minutes that you've spent talking about it. So Harman, let's get to some other topics. Lots to get to today. And I just read the chat. If you want to make sure that your comments read, hit us with a super chat. Our super chat charity partner this season is the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat in the YouTube live chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. I must say, the $10 super chat we got at the start of the week, solely for J-Pat dunking on me, I don't think we will ever top that. I think that was such a great organic moment of the show that someone loved how hard J-Pat was dunking on one of my takes, and he's like, here's $10 for charity because this was super entertaining that J-Pat was dunking on Harm. So I don't know if we'll ever top that. Challenge accepted, we'll see. But hit us with a super chat, folks. Let's get into it. Harm, Canucks fall to the Utah Hockey Club in their first game in Utah. A 3-2 overtime loss. Canucks don't show up for the first period, show up a little bit more for the second period, somehow enter midway through the third with a 2-goal lead, and For the first time this season since their loss to the Calgary Flames, the Canucks blow a multi-goal lead and go on to lose the game by a final score of 3-2.
Yeah, I had a way bigger problem with their start than I did with their third period, and this idea that, oh, well, they blew a multi-goal lead, they choked it away. Look, it's always disappointing when you're up 2-0 in the third and you find a way to lose that game. But look at the facts of the situation. Utah had just one shot on goal in the first 9 minutes of the third period. Anytime you're leading and you only surrender one shot on goal in the first 9 minutes of the final 20 minutes, that to me is a solid defensive showing. Overall, the Canucks surrendered just one high danger chance in the third period. Just one high danger chance in the third period. Not to mention the Myers cross-checking call I thought was really soft. And then the ensuing Dylan Gunther goal was a fluky bounce. A lot of people will say, oh, well, you got to find a way to kill that penalty. What were they supposed to do? That shot was from the perimeter. Takes such an unlucky bounce off Bluger, changes direction. I don't really blame the Canucks for the third period. What I did have an issue with was the completely lackluster start they had.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. And let's pull up this tweet from Kevin Woodley, friend of the show, Kevin Woodley. You brought up the one high danger chance in the third period. Kevin pulled it up, and this is what he tweeted. He said, Canucks continued their one good game, one bad game trend in Utah last night. First time since Detroit that an opponent has hit double-digit high danger percent chances. Feels like the bounce back will be harder in Vegas tonight because of back-to-back. Utah was getting their looks. Most of those looks came early on, but I thought Thatcher Demko was excellent last night. And I know the final scoreline's not going to necessarily show it, but I thought he was excellent. I thought he showed one sign of rust, maybe two signs of rust. And Utah made them pay both times for those signs of rust from Demko. One is a puck that he thought was in front of him. Look, I don't care what anyone says. Getting a feel for the puck matters, especially in a game situation. So I don't really pin it on Demko that there's a little bit of rust there, but like, the goals that beat him, those are just saves that Demko makes. Not to mention that he made huge saves earlier in the game that we're so used to seeing from him. So I'm not worried about Thatcher Demko at all, and I don't think anybody should be. I thought he was phenomenal last night. Made a couple mistakes, and Utah made them pay. Obviously, the Clayton Keller goal was the first one that I'm talking about, where he thinks the puck's in front of him, goes to cover it. Keller is able to just pick it up and put it past him. And then, yes, I know it's an unlucky bounce, but that wasn't great positioning from Demko on the second goal. It just wasn't, and that's one that, again, yes, it's unlucky, but when you look at, if you go back and look how far Demko was out of position, like that's just something that doesn't usually happen for him. So again, two signs of rust, and Utah makes the pay. They get the game to overtime. I did want to talk about this, the overtime goal. Okay, the overtime goal that eventually wins the game for Utah. A high-flying overtime frame as well. And Jacob, if we can pull up the goal, here it is. Yeah, so high-flying overtime frame. This is the shorthanded goal. We're going to get to this in a sec, but the overtime winner, that's the goal that we want to see. Yeah, so the overtime winner, okay? Some issues here as JT Miller throws a puck across to Connor Garland. Connor Garland can't corral the puck. Utah goes the other way. They score on a 2-on-1. Some people on Twitter are pointing out, oh, well, JT Miller not hustling back, not back in time. Like, I don't come out here often and say people are too mean to JT Miller and this is unfair criticism. But like, folks, we've watched 3-on-3 hockey for a long time now. 2-on-1s happen, and JT Miller's trying to make something happen at the other end. Connor Garland doesn't corral the puck, which isn't really JT Miller's fault. Yeah, it's a hot pass, but Connor Garland still doesn't corral the pass. It goes the other way. They're going to get that 2-on-1 no matter how hard JT skates. And he was skating hard. That was the other thing about it, was he was skating hard. So people are, turnover. Yeah, sometimes that happens. That happens sometimes in overtime. Look at this replay. He's skating hard. And people saying that he lets up at the end, like, he's not going to get there. He's not going to get there. In fact, you could argue that he shouldn't have skated back as hard as he did, because if Demko makes a save, guess what? Him and Garland are going the other way on a 2-on-1. But because of how hard he was skating back, if there's a rebound, it might not be a 2-on-1. And I know JT stayed out and that he was probably dead tired at that point, but I don't look at that overtime goal and say, oh, this is a big deal for JT. But I do have a bone to pick with the PK thing. I'll let you give your thoughts on the overtime goal first. Do you agree with me? Disagree? Let's see what the chat says as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree with you, to be totally honest. I didn't have an issue with him taking that calculated risk because he to me, held up his end of the bargain by actually getting the pass through. If this was a case where he turns it over himself, then it's okay. At the end of a shift, you're forcing a play that's not really there. His pass made it through, and if Garland had made contact with the puck, one-time chance, goalie's moving side to side, there's like a 40 to 50% chance of that being a goal, especially when it's off the rush like that. Unfortunate outcome, but I didn't have a problem with him trying to go for it in that situation. I had a bigger issue, honestly, with his play in regulation. I thought overall it wasn't a good game for him, but I don't have much harsh criticism for that decision in OT, even though it backfired.
If you want to blame GT for anything, this PK goal, this PK sequence, and the highlight goal, and it's the first one you played, Jacob, the PK goal, you're not going to see all of it, but there was a lot of standing around and pointing and directing traffic from JT. And remember, that was a big gripe earlier in the season, was the standing around. You're out of position and you're pointing at everybody. And again, hindsight's 2020. And maybe he thought the defenseman, Dylan Gunther, who's playing at the point, maybe he thought he was sneaking down. But if you watch this, and for those on the podcast, I apologize, but I'm sure you can remember the goal. Like, JT's stick is the wrong way. Play it again, Jacob. His stick is the wrong way. Like, his stick needs to be the other direction to take away the passing option, because the low defenseman and the high defenseman already have that covered. So he has his stick just in the wrong position. And again, that's nitpicking. I get it, but it also comes with the previous moments on that sequence where he's just standing around and pointing around. And like, I get it. The leader, all that stuff. I get it. But man, like that was the kind of stuff that we had issues with earlier this year. So I give JT his flowers and say it's not on him about the OT goal, but I'm going to be equally critical when I see just making the wrong play on the PK. That's not what you're supposed to do on that PK sequence. It's not.
Well, deployment wise, I think it's on the coaching staff to a certain extent too. There's a really long track record of JT Miller at 4-on-5, his goals against rate being among the highest in the NHL since he's been a Vancouver Canuck. And yet they continue using him on the PK. I just don't think he's a very good penalty killer. I don't think it's a lack of effort thing. It just seems the awareness. And I know that he wants to be on the PK. He wants to be out in shorthanded situations and be an all situations guy. I just don't think he's very good at it. And at a certain point, to me, that's more on the coaching staff than it is on the player. The play that I really had an issue with was on the power play in the second period, where he had a really bad giveaway and it led to the Kerfoot 3-on-1. That was a play where not only did he turn it over pretty egregiously, but that's where actually on the back check I was like, he's not really skating. It took him a while to get going, and I thought overall it was a game where his feet weren't moving as quickly as he does when he's on top of his game. And so OT, that play backfired. I didn't have a huge problem with the decision, but during regulation, I thought it was an off night for him.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about the game? I'm just quickly checking my notes. I don't think I have anything else. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up about that game? Oh, last thing. Another good game from Susie Juleson. They got to get their flowers as well. They're putting up good underlying numbers. They're passing the eye test. Who would have thought Carson Susie, Noah Juleson starting to turn around? But Harman, let's be honest, like, and not taking anything away from Noah Juleson, but like, the story here is that Carson Soucy is starting to figure it out and starting to look like the clear-cut number 3 guy that the Canucks had last year. And when he plays like that, it gives them the luxury of being able to elevate a guy like Juleson, who's really more of a 5-6, and play him in a top 4 role and not get buried alive. And that's what we're seeing right now, I think, is Carson Soucy elevating his game and Juleson kind of reaping the rewards of it.
Yeah, he's been terrific. Another thing I'll say about why Utah kind of dominated that first period is the Canucks passing in all 3 zones seem to be completely off the mark. And I'm not just talking about on the breakout on zone exits. I'm even talking about when the forwards had the puck in the offensive zone, a lot of situations where they were just forcing passes into the slot that weren't there. Utah would disrupt the pass. And then because of the speed that they have up front, that's how they were able to look dangerous off the counterattack. I'll also say this. You want to look at why some teams are dangerous off the rush and why it seems like the Canucks are kind of predictable at times and lack creativity with their offensive attack at 5-on-5. In the first period, watch how Utah stretched the ice laterally east-west. They were consistently hitting the weak side with their passes where there was more time and space. Their D were joining the rush. It wasn't just north-south. That's, I think, what stands out about why the Canucks attack at times looks a little bit too predictable is the movement patterns are only north-south through the neutral zone and through the offensive zone, whereas Utah, whether it was player enters the zone and he cuts across high in the zone, or it's just a pass diagonally across to hit the weak side, they were able to use the full width of the ice. Now, I think it became too predictable for them, and I think as the game progressed, part of the reason the Canucks got back in the game is because they started to realize that Utah was overly reliant on the east-west movement. But that stood out to me as, okay, big picture, I think you'd like to see the Canucks be a little bit more open to the idea of lateral play when you're transitioning it up the ice or even just in the offensive zone. So the attack isn't just win the puck in the offensive zone, back to the point, and you're relying on tips and deflections and screens.
Okay, final thing in my notes about the Utah game. That penalty call on Tyler Myers, we can get a look at it as well. The cross-checking call on Tyler Myers. Again, we've talked about the Jack Eichel one on Matthias Ekholm from the weekend. There was JT Miller earlier this week getting called for a super soft cross-check that happens like 100 times a game. In fact, Keller gives one to Pius Suter almost identical to what Myers gave to him, so that was really funny. But anyways, Myers gets called 2 minutes. Key pivotal part of the game. Utah doesn't even get a power play if that's not called. Post-game, Rick Tocchet saying that Kyle Raymond's a good referee, and I saw it differently, choosing not to criticize the refs. I wonder if he knew that Kyle Raymond is following the Canucks to Vegas. Kyle Raymond's reffing tonight's game as well. I don't know if you caught that, but Raymond is reffing tonight's game as well. So some savvy awareness from the head coach there to notably not call out the ref that he clearly disagreed with the call. We could see it on the broadcast, although that broadcast sucked. That's the other thing. That broadcast was brutal. Like, it sounded bad, aside from the commentary. Shout out John Strikehouse and Dave Tomlinson. But the picture, the sound quality was just all over the place. It was weird. Like, I get they have their hiccups to work through in Utah, but holy cow, like, it hurt my eyes. It legitimately hurt my eyes to watch the broadcast. It was so damn bright, but it was also dark. It was the weirdest thing. It was so weird.
There are also times when the camera was a little bit slow catching up to the play moving. I don't know if you noticed that. It stood out at times in the first period.
And you also couldn't see different parts of the ice. And I know they talked about that a few times on the broadcast, but yeah, it was weird. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. And Jacob chimed in our private chat here and he said the anthem was awful. I got to be honest with you. I haven't listened to the anthems in a while. Like, if I'm watching them from home, I'm working. And I know the puck drops not till 7:10. So then I fire up the game at 7:10. And if I miss a few minutes, okay, I'll just rewind. I got to be honest. I didn't see the anthems. Were they bad? Can you
I do the same thing you do.
Jacob's an anthem enthusiast. Tell us about the anthem, Jacob. They screwed up the lyrics?
Well, I didn't even see it right away because I was doing rink wide. So I was driving and I normally show up towards the end of the first period and I just listen on the radio for the first period. But I got there and I heard Irf and J-Pat talking about how awful the anthem was. So I went back and I watched it later. It was horrible. The singer
people in the chat are saying
absolutely
the same thing.
Butchered it.
What, the Canadian anthem? Or
the Canadian anthem. Yeah, it's probably someone who had never sang the Canadian anthem before. And it was kind of throwback to that when the CFL had those teams in the US and there was an anthem in Las Vegas and the anthem singer sang it to the tune of "Oh Christmas Tree." It wasn't the same, but it reminded me of that. It was really bad. We'll see. I'm going to try and dig it up. It's going to be hard because I don't know if anyone's posted it anywhere. If I can find it, I'll pull it up and anyone else.
I want to see this "Oh Christmas Tree" version of "Oh Canada."
That one's available. I'll definitely find that. I'll work on that in the background here for anyone else.
There you go. Okay, let's move on to some headlines around the league. And yes, I called them top 4 defensemen. Really, they're more 4-5 guys, and you might argue that the Canucks have enough of those, but I would argue that Will Borgen and Alex Carrier would probably be playing with Quinn Hughes on the top pair if the Canucks were able to execute a trade for them. We're talking about Noah Juleson as a top 4 option right now. So yes, Will Borgen and Alex Carrier, both traded yesterday, are defense options that the Canucks could have traded for. If you're going to nitpick about them not being, oh, they're not top 4, they're bottom 4, whatever. They'd probably both be playing with Quinn Hughes right now. Will Borgen moved to the Rangers in exchange for Kaapo Kakko. And Harman, I got to say, let's start on the Kakko deal. I feel like this might be an overpay from Seattle, but I get it from their perspective. Like, I understand it from their perspective, why they're going to get Kaapo Kakko. The Seattle sports market right now at this time of year, it's dominated by the Seahawks. But if the NBA were to ever go back, which it feels like that might happen at some point, right? The Sonics go back. If the NBA ever goes back, like the Seattle Kraken are going to be in big trouble. And I don't think people should kind of gloss over that fact that when you're a business, let alone a hockey team, but let's focus especially on a sports team, you have like, I don't know, 5 years to really encapsulate a fan base when you first move somewhere. Otherwise, you just become something that people just don't really care about because there's novelty, right? When you first go to a place, there's novelty. But if you don't win during those years and you don't really capture your fan base for any particular reason, you're going to struggle down the road. It's going to be a problem. And I mean, especially if the Sonics come back, you're in big trouble if you're the Seattle Kraken. So look, from Seattle's perspective, they can easily sell to their fan base. Yeah, this was the second overall pick back in 2019. And I'm sure they think they can get more out of Kaapo Kakko than he's shown to this point in his career. I get that. I understand that that's probably a part of the equation for sure. But this is also something where it's like they don't have any star power down in Seattle. They really don't have like and I'm not calling Kaapo Kakko a superstar or anything like that, but like they've lacked the star power in their first few years in the league. And hey, maybe Kaapo Kakko can become something for them. I get it from their perspective. I still don't love the return though. I think that's a bit of an overpay to go Borgen second and a sixth. I think that's a bit of an overpay.
I think that was a no-brainer for Seattle actually, and it was a third, not a second. To me, Borgen is what, a 27-year-old right shot D. He wasn't even having a good year. That's the thing, is he was struggling on the third pair. Pending UFA, they already have Larson and Montour locked up long term on the right side of their blue line. He wasn't going to stick around beyond this year. Now you toss in a third and a sixth to roll the dice on Kakko. And here's the thing: I don't even think Kakko has that high of a ceiling necessarily, because he turns 24 in a couple of months. I think it is. This is his 6th NHL season, but he's got a really high floor already because he's defensively responsible. He wins board battles. He can excel in a checking line role. Plus, he is 2 seasons removed from scoring 18 goals and 40 points with minimal power play time. And he was around a half a point per game mark this season as well. So this is a guy that can realistically give you 35 to 40 points with barely any power play time, is defensively responsible, young, pretty cheap, top 9 winger that you can slide up and down your lineup to be a complementary piece. And I'd rather have that than what would have Borgen fetched you on the trade market, like a third and a sixth or something.
That's a fair point. Like they may have been able to get a 2nd-round pick for Will Borgen at the deadline. I think that's a fair thing to say, but I will agree with you that, getting Kaapo Kakko for the reasons that I outlined as well, that you need something to sell your fan base, and Kaapo Kakko is certainly going to be a step in the right direction in that regard. I get it from Seattle's perspective. I do. I still think in a vacuum, like I don't love what they give up, and I don't know, Harm. Let's put it this way: we were talking about Nils Höglander plus for Kaapo Kakko, and maybe I just like Will Borgen more than other people. I think this is a good move for the Rangers in the fact that Trouba falling off a cliff and then being traded really hurt them. Not so much the traded part, but just the fact that they didn't have a guy that they kind of penciled into their top 4 for this year. And last year he fell off last year, and it translated into this year as well. They get someone in Borgen he's going to play in their top 4, and I think he's going to do a good job. So I just like Will Borgen, rate him higher than other people. But to each their own, I guess, about that trade. Alex Carrier, this one for Justin Barron. I love this trade for Montreal. Cost-controlled guy, 3 years at $3.75 million. Excuse me, $3.7 million. And Justin Barron goes the other way. Pretty unproven defenseman. I don't like this trade for Nashville. Again, I think they could have got more for Alex Carrier. And this was really the one that I looked at and said, like, that's it? Like, that's all it costs. Like, that feels like one that the Canucks could have been in on.
Yeah, I really like the trade for Montreal, especially because now it gives them enough right side veteran depth to where they can also move David Savard at the deadline and get assets back for him. Now, Carrier and the Canucks, I've talked about this before. Stylistically, I really would have liked him as a fit here. The problem is just from a roster construction perspective, how much money can you commit to number 4 or 5 defensemen? That's the issue I had is you already have Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers who you look at and go, these are number 4-5 type defensemen. Carrier is in that same boat where, yeah, he can play on your second pair, but on a contending team, you don't want him to be the best player on your second pair. And I think you'd be asking too much of him in that type of role potentially. $10 million you would have committed to Carrier, Soucy, and Myers. That's just too much. I don't like I don't think that's the most optimal, efficient way to allocate $10 million towards building your blue line. And this isn't even like Carrier in a vacuum. I have no problem with him making $3.75 million. It's just how many defensemen are you going to pay $3 to $4 million that aren't like high end, no questions asked, top 4 drivers, especially when you look at the teams that have won Stanley Cups recently, and most of them had a top pair caliber defenseman leading their second pair. Like that's the type of bar that teams have typically had. When Vegas won, it was Shea Theodore that they had on the second pair. Florida had Brandon Montour on the second pair. Tampa Bay had Ryan McDonough on the second pair, especially back in those days. He was one of the best shutdown defensemen in the NHL. That's just salary wise, especially with him being on the books for 2 seasons beyond this one. As much as I like the player, I didn't like the contract fit.
Okay, so with Borgen and with Carrier off the board, the thing that I keep thinking about, Harm, is Rasmus Anderson. Like, I look at these options that are out there, and yeah, maybe you'd like a Carrier, maybe you'd like a Borgen to kind of round out your bottom 4, let's call it that, bottom 4 defense group, and play on your second or third pair, especially third pair when everyone's healthy and when you have a full team. Those guys are great assets to have at that point, but like you just kind of said it. It feels like this team just needs to go out for the big fish. They need to go out and get that top 4 guy, that bona fide top 4 guy, the guy who's going to be the best player on your second pairing. Right now, like, who else can you think of that fits that criteria other than Rasmus Anderson?
I don't know if that guy is realistically out there. But besides, like as far as the names that have been publicly reported as being on the trade block, I don't think that defenseman's out there.
He's not.
But because otherwise,
Rasmus Anderson's not even out there. Like Rasmus Anderson is not rumored. Like, oh, they're gonna trade Rasmus Anderson. This is just the name that we're throwing out. Like, this could make logical sense. And I don't know, Harm. I might be going off a little bit too far here, and definitely don't clip this, Jacob, because people hate when you talk about trading prospects. But when we look at the competitive window, and when we look at what we've seen from Thatcher Demko early, I know it's early, but all this stuff, Quinn Hughes' contract for the next 3 years. What's Tom Willander really going to do for you in that time? And I know he could be an important part of this team, especially during the lean years of the OEL buyout. But man, if Calgary is ready to part with Rasmus Anderson, as long as you give them Tom Willander, I really struggle to look at that and say, and obviously it's not going to be Willander Anderson 1-for-1 swap, but if it's like a first and then they want the A prospect in Tom Willander, like I really struggle to say, okay, 2 years of Rasmus Anderson at $4.5 million this year and next isn't going to make that worth it. Because it's not like last year where, yeah, we're going to make this trade for this guy and then he's going to walk in free agency and whatever. It was cup or bust. Like, this is 2 years of Rasmus Anderson at $4.5 million. Am I on to something, Harm? Like, what I'm saying is I'm warming up to the idea of moving a prospect in order to go get a real difference maker like Anderson.
I'd be hesitant about moving Willander. I get where you're coming from, but even in today's NHL, you don't see true blue chip prospects of Willander's caliber moved in these types of deadline deals. Like even look at Timo Meier, who was moved from San Jose to New Jersey a couple deadlines ago. He was going to help for a long time, of course, because he was an RFA, and the centerpiece going back was Shakir Mukhamadullin. It wasn't like a lot of people were speculating that it might be one of the Devils' even higher rated Willander tier type prospects, and it just didn't end up being that caliber of piece. And again, if Anderson had, let's say, an additional year, so it's you get
3, yeah.
You get 3, then it's okay. That matches with the timeline of Hughes' contract. That's the juice might be worth the squeeze there. But I don't know, a year and a half of Anderson for, especially given that Willander plays that same position, and long term you're still going to need to find quality right shot defensemen. I don't know, especially looking at this Canucks team right now. I don't think we know whether they're one defenseman away from being bona fide cup contenders. They might be, but are you 100% convinced?
I lean toward yes, but no, I'm not 100%. But I also think they might be a couple pieces away. And if they add that winger, they add, we were just talking about like what it costs to get Alex Carrier. And again, I'm not saying you got to go out and make another trade, but I'm just looking at it and saying, I think they'd be closer if they got Rasmus Anderson than I do if they got Marcus Pettersson. Like, I'll just say that.
Yeah, of course. They're completely different caliber of players, but man, it's for a year and a half. If you're making that deal, you better be damn sure that you've got a team that's going to win multiple playoff rounds.
And the chat agrees with you, not so much with me. They don't like the idea of trading Tom Willander. Let's get to the chat real quick. We're going to get to anyone else later in the show, but this one from Rajcraft, he said, you need ELC contracts on a cup run. And as I said earlier, absolutely you do, especially during the OEL buyout years. I get that. I'm just saying Rasmus Anderson is such a difference maker. 4.5 million. I'm warming up to it is all I'm saying. I'm warming up to the idea. Oliver Sholnick in the chat says Rasmus Anderson becomes available once Quad's favorite team falls off in the next month. We'll see. We'll see about that. OP604 said trade Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, and more for Anderson. You'd also make JT Miller happy by moving an Elias Pettersson off the team. It's a good one. It's a good joke. This one from Mike Lavalley, he said, no way to Willander. I don't want a rebuild in 2 to 3 years. That's the other thing is we don't know what it's going to look like when this contract for Quinn Hughes is up. We don't know. I'm just saying that if you identify that this is your window to win and this is your best chance to win, go for it. You got to go for it. And I think Rasmus Anderson definitely helps there. This one from Dr. Haas, regular listener to the show. He said, no to Willander, but Hoggy a first and another pick for Rasmus Anderson. I'll tell you, as a staunch supporter of the Sea of Red, like I could totally see Nils Höglander finding a home and being a fit in Calgary. I totally could. I'm not joking around at all. I could see Nils Höglander really figuring it out in Calgary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, but also if I'm Calgary, I'm not saying yes to a package of a first.
No, it would be a first
else.
Höglander and probably like a B prospect as well, and maybe more picks. It's a big package for Rasmus Anderson because also they don't have to trade him. That's the other thing that we've talked about a few. Okay, there's more comments in here. We're gonna save them for anyone else. Actually, this one from Tom's Happy Land. I like this. Canucks had no blue chip prospects for years, and now you want to trade one of the few they now have. Look, Tom, I'm just saying that during those years, they weren't contending or even close to contending for a Stanley Cup. I think they're close. The team thinks they're close. The team thinks they're 1 or 2 pieces away from being real cup contenders. The problem before was that they were getting rid of prospects and not focusing on accumulating prospects just to try to make the playoffs. They're past that point now. This is a different team now. This is a different era of this team. The only argument I'm willing to listen to is that you need those prospects on ELCs during those OEL buyout years and during those years when you're trying to contend for a cup. I get it. I get that. But this idea of, well, you can't say they shouldn't have been trading prospects away years ago and now say that they should. Totally different. Anyways, let's get to Canucks versus Vegas. That's tonight. We still got to do Family Feud and anyone else. Harman, quick thoughts tonight versus Vegas. It is a Kevin Lankin to start versus Aiden Hill. Look, the Canucks need to bounce back. They gotta keep with this pattern of off game, on game, off game, on game. History would tell us that tonight's going to be an on game for the Canucks, but they're going to have their hands full with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, although I'll say this, by beating Colorado on Monday and at least getting a point against Utah, yeah, you want to see some type of response, but especially with it being the second leg of the back-to-back against one of the best teams in the Western Conference, to me, they're sort of playing with house money. And I know people might disagree, But you have to remember that after this game against Vegas, they're playing 7 straight games against non-playoff teams. And honestly, after the loss against Boston, I think I was saying, as long as they can muster at least a 1-1-1 record over the next 3 games, which is a tough stretch considering the quality of opponents they were facing and the back-to-back, I think that is sufficient, because I expect them to then really start to pick up steam as the schedule softens over the remainder of December and in early January. So yeah, you want to see them engaged. You want to see them have a better start than they did against Utah last night. But I also don't like, they collected 3 of 4 possible points against Colorado and Utah. I think they're fine.
Okay, let's get to Family Feud. We'll break down tomorrow's game tomorrow. Tonight's game tomorrow. We'll break it down. We're gonna be back in studio tomorrow. But let's get to Family Feud. I'm going first, Harm. Mute that mic. Take it away, Jacob Lazar.
For another edition of Canucks Conversation, Family Feud. All right, you guys had a heartbreaking loss last week. 2 points short. Quads was a little upset with some of the questions, but you know what? Hey, it's time for a bounce back. This one's interesting. Looking at the data, I mean, it's tough. This is a tough week. That being said, I think there are a few fairly obvious answers. You just have to put your mind in the presence of a Canucks Conversation listener, and I think you'll be just fine.
Let's do it.
All right. I'll remind you again of your rules. You're going to have 25 seconds on the clock. If you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. Harman, I see his headphones are out. He's muted. So I think we're good to go. Quads, are you ready?
Yeah.
Your timer will begin when I finish reading the first question. If the Canucks could have one Christmas wish or New Year's resolution come true this year, what would it be?
Score off the rush.
Which current Canuck would be the best Secret Santa?
JT Miller.
Which team without a Stanley Cup will be the first to win one?
Vancouver.
Name an NHLer you think will score 50-plus goals this season.
Kirill Kaprizov.
Name a Canuck backup goalie from 2000 to present.
Corey Schneider.
Good work.
I do good. I think those were good. There's no zeros in there. There's got to be no zeros.
You can flag Harman down, and I'll tally up your score.
Okay, he's coming. I like this one from Karn in the chat. Quads gets a 0-point answer for my bingo card. No, I don't think I got a 0, Harm. I'll tell you now, I don't think I got a 0. Jacob said it was going to be a tough week. I think, and Jacob will tell you, but I think most of those should have been the number 1 answer. Like, I think a few of them, there's only 2 answers that are going to get points, and I think you'll get them. There's a big spread on one of them, but you'll get it, Harm. I think you got this. Jacob, what are we looking at here?
So, Quads, you got exactly 100 points.
Okay.
So you're halfway there.
Now, did I take all the number 1 answers?
No, you did not. So
perfect. You got points on the board, Harm. Let's do it.
All right, Harman, I'll remind you again of your rules. You'll have 30 seconds on the clock. Your timer will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you can't think of an answer, just say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. If you give one of Quad's answers, you will hear the buzzer. There we go. And I'll ask you to try again. Are you ready, Harman?
Yeah, let's do it.
If the Canucks could have one Christmas wish or New Year's resolution come true this year, what would it be?
Top 4 defenseman.
Which current Canuck would be the best Secret Santa?
JT Miller.
Try again.
Tyler Myers.
Which team without a Stanley Cup will be the first to win one?
Vancouver Canucks.
Try again.
Pass.
Buffalo.
Name an NHLer you think will score 50-plus goals this season.
Mikko Rantanen.
Name a Canucks backup goalie from 2000 to present.
He gets to answer it.
Yaroslav Halak.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
I don't know why.
I think your fumble came on the floor.
Well, I mean, I couldn't.
Buffalo
think of
was the
team.
absolute wrong answer there.
That was probably the
worse.
only one you couldn't answer. Like I probably would have gone Winnipeg. Obviously, I went Vancouver.
So okay, we'll go through.
You know what?
I'm tallying up your score.
You know what the problem is? I started immediately thinking of longest cup droughts.
Oh, I hear you.
Instead of thinking about like these newer teams, and yeah, that was like the worst possible answer.
Harm, who did you answer for 50 goals?
Rantanen.
Rantanen, that's right.
Because
Wow.
I
that was
like
not
that.
good.
Surprisingly, only 2 for Rantanen. I thought he should have had more in the
I thought
survey. That
really?
one sucked.
okay, so here's how I thought of it, Harm. I think right now the only guys on pace for 50 are like Kaprizov and Draisaitl. So in my head, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go Kaprizov because people don't want to pick the Oilers. People are hoping for a Draisaitl
All right.
fall off.
So are you guys ready to go through
Break
this?
it down. Break it down.
First off, the bad news. You guys are 6 and 8.
Yeah.
That was a tough week. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So you guys got a few number ones, but there was just a couple big misses here that hurt you. So the New Year's resolution, Christmas wish. So top 4 D-Harm was the number 2 answer. That got you 18 points. Quads, only 1 point for scoring off the rush.
What was number 1? What's the
Number 1, win at home.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the big miss. And then there was a couple other ones in there. Better team defense, deal with the PD Miller drama.
yeah. Okay.
Anyways, the best Canucks Secret Santa, good work, Harm. Tyler Myers, the number 1 answer. JT Miller, only 7 points. He was the number 4 answer. Quinn Hughes, Thatcher Demko were number 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's
never go wrong with answering Quinn Hughes.
When it's which current Canuck, Harman and I always
Miller
or Hughes or
but
Myers.
Hey, good pull by Harman to go with Tyler Myers there.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's good.
So this one here is the big loss. Team without a cup to be the first to win one. You guys both said Vancouver first. That's the number 1 answer, obviously, when we're polling Canucks fans. Buffalo was the only team of all the ones listed who had never won a Stanley Cup that didn't get a single vote.
Well, I mean,
Minnesota was the number 2 answer. Minnesota would have gotten you 33 points.
Would that have won the game? What did we finish
not alone, but it would have gotten you very close. That one there would have gotten you to 190. Yeah. So that's a tough one. Winnipeg was number 3. Even San Jose and Utah got more love than the Buffalo Sabres.
It's all right.
NHLer to score 50-plus goals. Again, this one, I thought the Rantanen answer was a good answer. Kaprizov was number 2. Draisaitl was the number 1 answer. So 29 points there. If you guys had gotten Draisaitl, Kaprizov, and picked either Winnipeg or Minnesota in the previous one, you guys would have picked up the W.
We were close.
Lastly, the Canucks backup, Corey Schneider, was the number 1 answer. Sorry, I just realized, Quaz, I actually shortchanged you. You got 110 points. I typed it in wrong. Schneider got 29. So still, you got to 157 total. Number 2 answer was Eddie Lack. Number 3 was Alex Ald. This one was fun. There was some great throwback names in there. Peter Scudra, Johan Hedberg, Andrew Raycroft got in there. Jason LaBarbera.
Curtis Sanford. Did he get some love?
Curtis Sanford got one. Danny Saberin got a couple votes. Nice. So a lot of really fun names. Tough one, and I will admit that was a harder week, but just a couple.
I think we played well though. Like I'm happy with how we played. Yeah.
Just the data kind of hurt. Rantanen deserved more than 3 points, Harm. That was a good pull.
DM Payne in the chat, in quotation marks, he's quoting what I said earlier. He said, most of these should be number 1 answers. Then he goes, Quads just can't help himself sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Quads, I will say, like, when you said that, I didn't want to give it away that your very first answer only got you 1 point. But,
no zeros, baby. No zeros.
No zeros.
Harman, going second is more difficult. We can change back if you want, but I liked our week. I thought we did good.
I'm actually more upset about the last week. I thought we played that one really well, and we're like to be 2 points away. Like that's our record would be 500 right now.
I know. If you think about it, if you really think about it, we basically are 500. I like that thought, Harm. I like that thought. Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the first viewing party of the season on October 19th, and we'll be there for the rest throughout the year, so don't miss out. But even if we're not there, you certainly should be. Just minutes from the arena, come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for with arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the recently updated street food menu. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Okay, we're gonna have a new Family Feud survey going out soon. Is it ready now, Jacob, or are we doing
No, I'm gonna wait. So
no worries. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be taking some shows off here between now and New Year's. So look for it. Like probably our first show of 2025, we'll announce, hey, new survey is ready, and then the first Thursday, that's kind of a regular show in January, we'll get back to Family Feud.
Okay, let's get to anyone else. Let's see what the people have to say. Actually, Jacob, can you pull up your Christmas
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Yes. I was able to find it. I couldn't find the anthem from Utah last night, and I don't want to like go on to Sportsnet Plus and mess around and get copyright issues on the video. But I found the "Oh Christmas Tree" rendition of "Oh Canada." This was from a CFL game in Las Vegas in the 90s.
Oh Canada,
Good so far.
our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command.
Is he reading?
With growing
Yes, he's
hearts
reading it.
we see thee rise, the true and strong,
And he's not even
and
getting the words right
free.
anyways.
From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I'll cut it there.
He's not a bad singer. That's the thing. He's not a bad singer. He just obviously had never heard the anthem before.
The first line was pretty good, and then it went
He
all
had it at
downhill
the start.
from
Had
there.
it at the start. He had it at the start. Dr. Huss saying that guy kind of looks like me when I had my long hair. I like that. That's funny. That's really funny. With growing hearts. That's the really funny thing. Yeah, you know what? I hate, and you don't see it often, but I hate people that read the lyrics to the anthem when they're up there. That's brutal. That's a bad look. If you're gonna sing it wrong, don't be reading something as well. You gotta come on. Okay, let's go. Let's see. In the chat here, we have what do we have? Connor Murphy. Your thoughts on Connor Murphy? That's what Tyson Carter's asking you, Harm.
He's okay. He's another one of those 4-5 defensemen. He's not a puck mover, so that would be the concern I have. Again, would he upgrade the blue line? Yeah, but he's more of like he's 6'4", 215, more of a stay-at-home guy. To me, they have that style of defenseman already, and I don't think he gives them enough mobility and skills with the puck.
What else do we have on this list here? Yeah, like a lot of people want to talk about the under the radar trade targets. A lot of people giving you the business about your Buffalo answer, saying that they're gonna have to get you a Nils Höglander Buffalo jersey by the end of the year.
Well, don't worry. I know. As soon as I said it, I was like, I know this is an awful answer.
But you said Vancouver, which was the number one answer. Going second is hard. Going second.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what throws you off as well. But also, I don't know why. I immediately thought of like teams. Like originally, my mind went to like longest cup. I should have said Toronto, but I don't know why.
I hear you. I don't know how many of us Toronto would have got either, though. I think
that's true. Like, I don't think
Toronto has won some Stanley Cups, though. It was teams that have not won.
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Against I was thinking longest drought for some reason.
So
well, at least you said a team that hadn't won a cup. That would have been more.
That is correct. Yeah. It's not, you didn't just jump in and say like Vegas or Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Cam York. People like Cam York. Why would they move him? I don't think Cam York's going anywhere. Do you?
I don't think he's going anywhere either.
And
I like him as a player, though.
Yeah, I like Cam York as a player, too. Got him in all my fantasy leagues. Love me some Cam York. But this is just one that I don't see them moving. Someone I do see the Flyers potentially moving. Travis Sanheim?
No, he's been their number one defenseman. If he was available, yeah, go out and kick tires, but...
We didn't know Will Borgen was available.
We did.
Did we? I missed it.
Yeah, we did.
I missed it. I didn't know Will Borgen
he was on
like,
Chris Johnson's trade board. I wrote about him. Like 2 weeks ago, I wrote an article with like 7 potential targets, and Will Borgen was on it.
My bad. Missed that one. Okay, let's just end anyone else on this one. We don't have a ton in the chat. Let's go to this one from OP604. We'll close on this one. Which Vancouver media member would you not want as your secret Santa, and why is it Dollywall? I'm not going to do not want. Let's say, who do you want as your secret Santa? Like, you could pick anyone from the Vancouver media as your secret Santa. Obviously, I'm biased. I would say Chris Faber. He's gotten me great gifts in the past, but he also, he knows me the best, all that sort of stuff. He's gotten me good gifts in the past. Minus, you can't pick me, you can't pick Drance, and you can't pick Faber. You can't pick any of those three. Who would you pick? It can't be someone you're like actually close with. It has to be someone that you consider a colleague. I'd say Dan Murphy.
I was gonna say Murph's who I'd pick.
But we both talked to Murph quite a bit. We can't pick Murph either. Okay, Murph's
Okay,
disqualified.
then what are you gonna say? I can't pick J-Pad either, or
No, J-Pat's a contributor. I wouldn't pick J-Pat, and
Yeah,
like,
no.
I'm close with I wouldn't pick J-Pat.
Who else is out there? Bruff.
Bruff's a good pick. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna go Sat. I'm gonna go Satyar Shah.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I'll
yeah, it's Sat, but I'm too close to Sat. I feel like to
Mhm.
pick him.
I hate Sat. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I would pick Sat. I think Sat's a good gift giver. I got it. Yeah. Okay. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day as we wrap up today's show ahead of tonight's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Harm, looking at the NHL slate, who do we like? Who did we pick yesterday? Did I lose yesterday? I can't remember. Who did we pick yesterday? Either of you guys remember?
I don't think I remember. Oh, did you pick Minnesota to beat?
Yeah, you picked Minnesota.
Nice.
they
What
win it?
happened?
I believe they lost like 6-1.
Are you serious?
6-1 loss.
Yeah, they lost 6-1 to Florida.
Okay. Let's take a look. So I think we need this win to get to 500 on the year. What do we like? Okay. Let's go with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I won't go with a favorite. I won't. I'll go with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the underdog Pittsburgh Penguins to beat the league worst Nashville Predators. Plus 135 odds are them Penguins to take down the Nashville Predators. We're going with it plus 135 on the money line, Pittsburgh Penguins. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment is never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, we will wrap it up there. We'll be back tomorrow. I got a Christmas sweater that I think I'm going to wear tomorrow. I think it's time. I think we'll wear our Christmas sweaters tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll wrap it up there. For my co-host Harman Dial and our technical producer Jacob Bazar, my name is Dave Gudrelli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.